So I accidentally built a business that doubled my income as a musician. And if you've been waiting to feel ready until starting something, this story might change that. So I moved to New York in 2008 after graduating from Berklee College of Music. And I came here to pursue my dream as a musician, as a working musician, as a professional musician, as an artist. I had all these big expectations. I did come to graduate school at NYU, so I had something going on. I didn't just arrive, and that was helpful. But I realized that I was not good at networking. I'm introverted. I didn't really know what to do about making money as a musician. So the first few years were difficult, but I was in that graduate school bubble, so it felt good and I was learning. I was a student, really. Fast forward to 2 years, when I graduated, I was like, how am I gonna make money? I got kind of stressed out about that, and I realized that I had 2 degrees, 2 very expensive degrees in music, and I wasn't able to make money, make a living as a musician. I was like, am I a professional musician? Because I can't even make $500 a month with music right now. That was in my head a lot of thoughts like that. And one day I was at a rehearsal for an orchestra, and my fellow mates in the bass section, they were talking about wedding gigs and how they were going to be playing these gigs on the wedding, on the weekend, and how the wedding gigs were paying them money and they were able to do all this stuff. And I was like, wow, I'd love to do that, but I have no clue what to do, who to talk to. And they were bass players, so it was kind of like I didn't want to step on their turf for their gigs, and I didn't know how to network. I just kind of overheard things, right? And I realized that nobody was really going to call me. I had to just figure it out myself. I just wasn't networking enough. I didn't know how. I was a very quiet person, and so I overheard that they were posting listings on this website. Back then it was called Gig Masters, where they posted a listing of their services, maybe some videos of them playing, and they would get inquiries, and then that's how they would get the gigs. So I went immediately to that website that night. I started looking. I was like, oh my God, this is real. This is how they were getting those gigs. And then I saw their listing and I was like, okay, cool. And I posted a listing of my own. And it's like hundreds of people on there, trios, quartets, full bands, solo artists. And I started the journey. I had no clue what I was doing. And I remember the very first gig that I got somehow, well, it was because I didn't charge very much. I charged a client $320 for a cocktail hour jazz trio for their wedding. And I paid everybody, the other 2 guys in the band, in my trio, I paid them $100 each, and then I kept $100 plus $20 for like the manager fee, the band leader. And I was like, oh my God, I am rich. And I remember the drive to the gig, we're all like, man, if we could do this like once a month, that's it, we're gonna be set. And it was so funny, all for like $100. $100, this was back in 2009 or something like that. That just felt like a lot because I was coming from zero money from gigs. I had no gigs. And also they were on the same level. They were kind of new in town, and we were all kind of rising up. Okay, we were up and coming. We were trying to become these working musicians. And that was a spark. I remember at that gig, we took videos, photos, and the client was like, he was so happy. They wrote us a great review, and that was such a pivotal moment for me. I was like, hey, you know what? I could do this. I was good with the clients. I'm really good at emails and all the logistical stuff. This could actually work. So over the next year or 2, my trio got a lot more inquiries. Once you get the ball rolling, you get those reviews, then people come and inquire a lot. And each time you do a gig, you post, you get your phone, your camera out. I had a little GoPro back then, and I would just take footage of everything, and then I would chop that up, put it up on the listing, and I would get more interest, more inquiries, and maybe that first couple of years we had like 5 gigs that first year, and then it started to really grow the second and third year. And the thing just kind of snowballed little by little. And a big part of it was that I was just out there fearlessly figuring it out. I didn't care how hard it was. I didn't care that I didn't know how to talk to people on the phone. By the way, I was terrified of talking to clients on the phone. And that was a big trick, was to get them immediately on the phone and just start chatting them up about, who you are, what you can offer them. Terrified. Now it's like one of my biggest strengths. But back then I had no clue, but I didn't care. It was like a fun adventure that I didn't have anything to lose, really. I didn't have any money invested in it. I was out there working with my instrument, and that's it. And so one day at one gig, I remember we played the cocktail hour. After the cocktail hour comes the reception, the full reception. And the clients usually have a DJ or a band. And at this one gig, it was this big ballroom. I hear a bunch of stuff, introductions, music, people cheering, and I crack open the door and I see like this huge band, 10-piece band. They're all pumping the crowd, lights, a bunch of singers, the drummers going off. And I was like, oh my God, I have to do that. That's it. I need to be, whoever is in charge there, I need to be that person. I remember it so well, me just cracking open the door. And I was like shocked. And I was so excited about that. And of course I had no idea what to do. But slowly what I did was then I added another person to the trio. I think I added another horn player. And then maybe at one point, I added a singer. I wanted to add a singer. And I remember talking to one of my friends. They're like, man, are you sure you want to get into like the singers, having singers in your band? Because that's a whole nother ball game. And it's complicated and it's a whole thing. And I was like, yeah, I mean, what's the big deal? How hard could it be? So I just dove right into it. And yes, it was exponentially more complicated going from instrumental music to live music with a singer or multiple singers. And I just started little by little coming up with a repertoire, asking the singer, hey, what do you play? What's your favorite songs? And it kind of just grew from there. I remember I was coming from the jazz world, and I didn't know like any of the Stevie Wonder songs. I didn't know like Let's Stay Together. I've never even I barely heard that song before in my life. Signed, Sealed, Delivered, never played it. Superstition, never played it. All that stuff. September, forget it, right? And I was learning the music as I went, gig by gig, and sight reading. I remember I was sight reading Let's Stay Together, the first gig. I had no clue where it was going, like, the B section, where the bridge, or like the little modulation. I'd never heard it before. And I'll never forget that, just sight reading that chart. And of course, we play that like every night now. And just dove into it. I remember sometimes I would hire people in the band that had more experience, like the guitar player had a little bit more experience in some of this repertoire, and he was like guiding me along. He's like, no, pause here, take a break on beat 2, then go, like stuff like that. And I just learned as I went. And really my zone of genius early on was that I was so good at the logistics of the whole thing, because the wedding industry, it's all about timelines, it's all about emails, communication, details, everything needs to be spot on. It's all about following instructions with the wedding planner, with the client. And I'm really great at that. And I realized early on, like, hey, the reason why this is successful is because I am able to sit there on the computer and talk to clients in a certain kind of way. And it's not really my ability to play music, my musicianship. Of course, that has something to do with that. But the business side of it is a whole nother world. And within a couple of years, before I started, I was making like $28,000 a year on paper somehow. I don't even know what I was doing, teaching, lessons, all kinds of things. And within a couple of years, I mean, it doubled my income. And I was like, wow, I built something and this is really cool and I'm gonna go all in on it. Now I was like around the $40,000 mark, $50,000 mark of income, nothing glamorous, and I was grinding away. I was doing everything, carrying the equipment. I was being the MC when I needed to be. I remember one of the early gigs with a 5-piece band, you know, singer, guitar, bass, drums, maybe keyboards, or a sax player. That was me doing everything, doing the sound, doing the MCing, the band leading, talking to the client, everything. Those early years was, it's all done by me. It was alone. And I hired the musicians kind of like as hired guns, contractors. Had a little mini roster already, like 3 years into it. But it was a grind, and I looked around, I was like, man, I built something, I built a business, and people like other musicians started to want to play with me and play my band, and it was really exciting. It was a very exciting moment knowing that, oh, I built something that is pretty cool. And so by 2016, it became my full-time job. I quit all my teaching gigs, and it was full on there, 7 to 10 piece configuration of the band. We had lighting, we had 2 sound crew members dedicated for that. I had a van just for the equipment, and wow, it's taken it's been a long journey. It's taken a lot of work, and I am so proud of where everything that I've accomplished, and surviving the pandemic. That was a whole thing. And the takeaway is I just started. Like that moment at that rehearsal when I heard those guys saying, talking about that website with the listing, I literally just started. I didn't care how cringe I might be. I didn't care that I didn't know anything. As an introvert, I have like no business planning a party or being the life of the party. I had so many excuses that it could have been the other way. Hey, don't start this because you're introverted. You're not a party guy. You're a jazz guy. You don't know anything about pop. So many reasons to not start, but I just dove in. I didn't care. I didn't care what everybody thought about me being a wedding band guy instead of like an original jazz artist. I just dove in, and I am so grateful for that moment. It all starts with just one listing, one gig, one win, step by step. So I ask you guys, what's the thing that you are waiting to feel ready for? What's that thing? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you're new here, I'm Claudio. I am the bass player and the owner, band leader of Mod Society. If you like this kind of content, subscribe for more content and smash that like button. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.